Am I wrong for not allowing my ex and former best friend to take my kids out of state for a week to heal and recover after she was left unable to have children? I have 2 children under 12 with my ex. We divorced 5 years ago after I found out he and my former best friend were having an affair. That discovery shattered me in ways I can't even begin to explain. They both tried to apologize, begging me not to let it ruin everything. But their actions had already destroyed the life I thought I had. I hate the 2 of them, completely, utterly. I no longer care about how they're doing, and honestly, I wish I could forget they exist. But for my kids' sake, I remain civil. I have never badmouthed them to my kids. I have never told my kids what happened, even though the betrayal still feels like an open wound some days. I would never want my kids to be harmed more by their father's actions than they already were. The divorce was devastating for them, and watching them struggle to come to terms with the changes broke my heart over and over again. Even now, they still need therapy to address the lingering adjustment issues. My former best friend hasn't helped either by pretending everything is fine and trying to continue on as though we're still best friends, despite what she did. It also didn't help that the kids went from seeing their parents together to watching their dad move in with their mom's former friend. I can only imagine how confusing and upsetting that must have been for them. But my primary focus has always been my children. I love my kids more than I hate those 2 repulsive individuals. I love my kids more than I love myself, which is why I've worked so hard to stay civil in front of them. Because if I had my way, I'd never have to see or speak to either of them again. But my kids love their dad, and that has never changed. My ex and this woman are now married. They've been trying to have children together, but in December she had her 10th miscarriage. She had to be rushed to the hospital and into emergency surgery, which left her unable to have children again. My ex called me to tell me this, and as much as I loathed them, I felt a flicker of pity. But then he asked me to bring the children to the hospital to stay until she was discharged. It was my parenting time, and I told him no. I wasn't going to make my kids sit in a hospital for hours. He was clearly frustrated and tried to manipulate me by saying he'd get the kids to ask me to let them stay. I told him that wasn't happening. After that, he made no further contact. He didn't show up for his parenting time either, or reach out to explain. His mother later told me he refused to leave the hospital. He didn't see the kids until his next scheduled parenting time when she was finally home. At that point, I could feel the tension radiating from him. He was furious with me for not letting the kids sit vigil in the hospital. Now there's a new issue. My ex booked a healing getaway for them and wants the kids to go along. The trip falls during my parenting week and during a school week. He also wants to take his scheduled weeks before and after the trip, meaning he'd have the kids for 3 consecutive weeks. He's even suggested he'd keep them out of school for the week so they can help her recover and grieve. He told me the kids' presence is vital to her healing, as though there's some sort of emotional crutch for her. I said no. I explained that I wouldn't let the kids miss school for a week, especially not for something like this. I told him the kids are not their emotional support system, and professional therapy would be far more effective. I also reminded him that our court-ordered parenting plan states that if a parent voluntarily skips their time, they can't demand a make-up week without mutual agreement. He called me cold, asking how I could be so by the book in such a situation. He told me that human decency should compel me to set our differences aside and let the kids go. He even had the audacity to ask how I would feel if she ended her life because of my refusal. I told him I wouldn't feel anything. I told him they lost any claim to my empathy when they betrayed me. I will not be manipulated into agreeing to something that puts my children's well-being and education at risk. But now he's pushing harder than ever, guilt-tripping me at every turn. I know I might sound harsh, but am I wrong to stand my ground?